Yeah, so today's session, how to fight complexity with simplicity, it's more of some general ideas of experiences that I've gone through as part of working with some of our customers' organizations around the challenge of moving to a digital business. And when we say digital business, how does organizations get there? And what does the fundamental under principle of working through a new operating model actually look like? As a way of introduction, my name is McErlean. I run and lead our digital engineering business within Box. And if I was doing this presentation, I'd say 2, 3, 4 years ago, it would be very much focused on feature function capability. But today, when we engage with our customers and my team engage with customers, it's all around value, it's all around impact that we can have to an organization. So they're looking to look at the business processes they have that underpins their organization, and how do you take complexity out of that? How do you simplify those engagements? How do you work a lot more effectively, both inside an organization and also outside an organization? As you've also detected, I'm from Northern Ireland, so I've got a tendency to speak really, really fast sometimes. So as this presentation goes on, I'll go up a lot quicker and a lot higher, so just I can slow down as well. If anybody's smart in the audience and figure out exactly where I'm from, I used to get asked, oh, do you know Liam Neeson? But now I get asked a lot more, do you know Arlene Foster? So you can see the, how Northern Ireland has become a lot more famous.
I can tell.
It's also really proud to do this session along with Okta. So Okta is one of our key partners at Box. And so they're the leaders today in security, identity management as well. And so some of the customer examples I'm going to show today are joint Box and Okta customers. We're going to talk about how those customers implemented technologies from respective organizations to transform their organization. If you're not familiar with Box, we've been around 13 years. I've been with Box about 6 years. I was one of their first employees in the UK outside of the US. And Box kind of is the leader in cloud content management. So we work with organizations of all different sizes, from small to medium to very large organizations, and how they manage their content. And so we also work in highly regulated organizations, financial services, insurance, life sciences as well, as an example. And so when we have these discussions with customers and they think about how they transform their organizations, how do they go digital, there are a number of key challenges that we have to work with them first of all. And I think the first important thing is all of our respective organizations are all changing. We're all adapting to the ever-growing presence of new demands, the need to create new products, new services, and push them out into the industry as quickly as possible. But we're seeing a lot of demand from our customers to be able to provide more on-demand services, more rapid deployment of the products and services that we wanted to release. And that isn't just from our customers, it's also from our internal employees. There's a real demand from our employees to provide better tooling so they can get access to information a lot quicker, they can work much more easily and much more efficiently. And that their expectation is coming from the outside world. They want to have the same the tools that they're used to inside of the organization, because fundamentally they want to be able to collaborate, they want to be able to share, they want to be able to access information like they do in the outside world as well. But our competition is also changing. And so your competitors are either the legacy competitors that are innovating, or they're brand new competitors that were never in the market 2, 3, 5 years ago. And with a few lines of code and access today to infinite computing power, those competitors can be very nimble and actually be able to disrupt the very legacy dominant players that are in the market today. And they can actually define new markets that you're not even playing in. And so that real threat from the competition is real, and it's real every day. And it isn't just the competition, our partners are in flux as well. And so another big challenge when you think about becoming a digital business, well, what does the partner ecosystem that I used to be supported by? My traditional partners that I may have known for the last 2, 5, 10 years actually could now be my competitors. They're leveraging new technology in order to create new services and expand their own organizations into markets that could be dominated, that I used to previously dominate. And also my competitors, my legacy competitors, may be organizations that I actually need to partner with now in order to get more scale to deliver value to my organization or to my customers as well. And then finally, I think the other big challenge is security and compliance. And so that cyber threat is always going to be there. It's something we have to be mindful, and it's only get a lot worse. But we need to also think around things around data privacy, new regulations, and compliance through the data sets that we have a responsibility to manage within inside of our organization. So those are the background to some of the challenges that customers need to think about when they're actually approaching becoming a digital business. And so I think we all know we need to go digital. It's very obvious. I'm not telling you something you don't already know, but it's certainly not easy to get there. And the key thing here is you can't just throw software at a problem and all of a sudden just become digital tomorrow morning. So it isn't just a case of I've got a standard set of processes and procedures and workflows inside of my organization that if I could just put a sexy UI in front of and move it to the cloud, suddenly I become a digital business. It doesn't really work like that. I need to fundamentally think about the operating model that supports that front-end customer engagement. And that could be how my end users, my employees within the organization effectively work and are enabled by your organization. And so if you look at some of the key trends of moving from the traditional operating model within inside your organization and what a digital business would look like, one of the key things here is around how quickly can you innovate. If you look at the legacy world, typically release cycles were every 1, 2, 3 years. But that customer demand, that end user demand means that we need to be releasing new capabilities in our products and our services on an ongoing basis. We need to have rapid development so that our customers are fully engaged with the products and services we respectively sell across our organizations. The second thing is around the boundaries. Traditional organizations in the past would have been focused around the employees and the talent and the resources inside of our respective organization. Today, our organizations are much more outward looking. We embrace the extended enterprise. So we need to be able to collaborate much better with our customers, our partners, our supply chain in order to actually get the best talent in order to drive our organizations forward. We used to rely a lot on guesswork and intuition in order to make decisions, and hopefully some of those were the right decisions. But today we've got access to real-time data signals that allows us to pivot in the way we release products, the way we release services, the way we engage with our customers. So actually we can be a lot more smarter, a lot more nimble to how we actually position our organizations, both from a back-end office, but also how we engage directly with our customer base. And with smarter software, with smarter data, that means we can actually take out some of the manual, repeated processes that go across our organization. So we leverage capabilities like machine learning, like AI technologies, in order to actually take out some of that repetitive work processes across your organization today. And then with better software, with that better data, with those simplified automated procedures and robotics inside of our organization to simplify some of those processes, that means your end user engaging experiences can be much more self-service. So it relies less on individual teams and individual users to service your customer. And your customer could be external, but your customer could also be internal. So how do you allow your end users to be self-service regardless of where they're at as well? And then fundamentally, what does security look like in this new paradigm? And so previously, we used to love to hug our servers. We used to be able to see them. We used to be able to touch them. We used to be able to hear them. But in the world where we're much more engaging with customers, our partners, our extended enterprise, it's not about protecting the data. It's actually about protecting the data flow. And that's where the importance around governance and identity plays a really, really key part in allowing you to effectively reinvent and simplify some of these processes that your extended enterprise can be involved in that straight process as well, and fundamentally access that single source of the truth rather than duplicating that constantly and adding the additional complexity to doing that. So digital businesses operate in a fundamental different way. So as I mentioned, it's not just about the front of house, it's the back office capabilities and really to empower this. And I want to share a couple of examples this morning. And again, these are joint customers that we have with Okta and Box and around how we transformed some of these organizations. And so Oxfam is a really great example. They're a great organization that's doing really great in the world today, but they want to constantly disrupt themselves. And so they need to be able to react very quickly to mission critical calls for the service. So they need to be able to assemble teams very quickly without the involvement of IT, without the involvement of HR. And so they need software and digital tools in order to transform that process very quickly. So they use the Box platform in this case as an example. So in the 2015 Nepal disaster, they leveraged our platform in order to get multiple teams together through their affiliated networks in order to disassemble and provide real-time information directly to their user base and their affiliated organizations on the ground that's actually doing the work. So they were able to build on top of that capability. And so now what they're doing is they have now standardized as a single content layer across their organization globally for data assets and knowledge transfer. And because we're built on an open platform, they can then simplify how other applications that they're providing to their end users and to their affiliate networks gets access to that knowledge as well. So whether the users want to work inside something like an Office 365 or a Salesforce or a bespoke created application that Oxfam want to build, they have a single content layer that powers all of those engaging experiences. And because they have that single layer across their organization for both the protection of the data as well as the identity of that who's accessing that data, that means they can simplify their security and their compliance. And so they have one platform that they can need to look at things like the new regulations, the new data privacy, the new data deletion policies they need to apply to that data as well. Another great example is the Metropolitan Police Service of London here. So they've got 33,000 staff across London doing an amazing job. But their job is becoming more and more difficult on a daily basis. So we create vast amounts of digital evidence. It gets created all the time. So think about CCTV, think about taking photographs on your mobile phone, think about applications creating data feeds for white-collar crime, for example. All of that needs to be accessed and positioned in some way for a case. And so take a real scenario like a crime gets committed on a London bus. That's CCTV footage. In the legacy operating model for the Met Police, that police officer would need to travel across London, sit in a London bus garage for several hours viewing the footage to mark it as either evidential or not evidential. In today's new world, using Box, the Metropolitan Police have real-time access to that CCTV. The bus garage uploads it as soon as a crime is committed. The officer can review it, they can mark it evidential, it then flows directly to an investigative officer, it then can flow directly to prosecution or defense, it then can be accessed by the Crime Prosecution Service and ultimately by the courts through your conviction as well. So a single platform, so you no need to duplicate that content, no need to burn it to DVDs, so really transforming how the Met Police actually work through the collection and processing of digital evidence through the different boroughs of London. So they're actually taking the same technology today and looking at 60 other use cases of how they work with blue light organizations, how they work internally, how they work with victims and victims councils, for example, and how they collaborate and share information. So simplifying all of those procedures as well. So taking the manual tasks, so those end users are having much more impact today on the streets of London. Another great example here is Farmers Insurance. You may not recognize Farmers for very large organizations, 25,000 users globally. Probably more recognized here in Europe as Zurich Insurance. So Farmers Insurance are really using digital technology platforms in order to reinvent claims processing, but doing it in two ways. Number one is creating a unique, engaging experience that's front of house. So I have a car accident tomorrow morning, I take out my mobile phone, I can snap that car accident, I can make a claim directly as the accident has happened. Or I can go home and upload the photographs into an engaging portal. But what they're actually doing is also reinventing the back of house operation. So using AI and machine learning technologies. So as that photograph is fed in, as that case is getting created, automatically interpret that image or that video. Pull out things like your car registration number or the type of car or the color of car or try to identify the type of damage that might be in. So speed up that process. But as all of that information is getting on-ramped and created through these digital channels, there is a massive complexity around security and governance around PII information that's been created. And so with our platform, the ability is off-ramp that information a lot easier. So in using things like our compliance tools around data deletion, security classification, data retention policies, so they can stay adhered to the compliance and regulation for their specific customers, but leverage a platform to do that globally for all of the data they're collecting. And the last one here as an example is AstraZeneca. So you may know AstraZeneca, 80,000 users globally, a long-term Box customer. And so they really started their journey many, many years ago with Box, really to solve the challenge around how do I collaborate externally with the partners and supply chain that are supporting me delivering new products or new pharmaceutical products into the market. They really then started to really build on top of that core platform in order to displace records management and heavyweight enterprise content management platforms inside of their organization. 80% of all of their projects are considered what's known as ad hoc. So that means that teams need to get together very quickly in order to collaborate and share and create teams. Some of those teams involve internal users, some of those teams involve external. The word ad hoc means that those users are self-serving. They don't need to involve IT, they don't need to involve security. They can create their environments to collaborate and share the information very safely, very securely, but they're empowered to do that themselves. So they don't need to have rigid applications that require the involvement of IT in order to effectively collaborate in those scenarios. And they're also leveraging our platforms around things like governance capabilities. So by consolidating all of their content into a single platform, that means that when they need to put content on legal hold, for example, they don't have to do that across 25, 50 different channels. They can do that across 1, 2, 3 different channels because they're simplifying all of that content. 25% of all of their users at any point in time is under a legal hold. That means that there is an investigation taking place around the products they were involved in, the campaigns they were involved in to market that, or external users, and doing patent infringement. So things around legal hold really simplify the governance and oversight around audits and investigations around AstraZeneca. And so in these examples, content was at the heart of all these examples. And so when we think about content, we aren't just thinking about your PowerPoint presentation and collaborating. Think about the work processes that happen every day inside your organizations. How do you create standard operating procedures? How do you create health and safety information? How do you do HR onboarding? How do you do sales and marketing collateral, making sure that gets out to the field workers at the right time, for example? How do you work with your partner agencies? What are the frictions that happen between that content working together? How do you get that approved? What is the workflows that approve that content for publication, for example? All of that is the work that happens inside of your organization on a daily basis. And your digital transformation may have happened 2, 3 years ago. You may have moved your emails to the cloud, you may have moved some calendar to the cloud, you may have moved some of your lightweight applications to the cloud. But fundamentally, have you looked at the interactions with your users and how they work on a daily basis? Where we get involved with a lot of customer scenarios, most of what we do now is with lines of business. We want to make that impact. We want to show organizations the value that our platforms can have inside their organizations. So it's no longer just IT saying, this is the type of solution you're going to use for across your organization. It is where we can make a difference to those line of business, where we can speed up the innovation or the product creation inside those specific areas. And so there's a lot of work to be done in these type of scenarios, and we can definitely help you transform. And so this is a slide that we use internally with our customers, and I kind of call it this kind of a curve of adoption. And really where we're focused with a lot of our engagements is this kind of third pillar now. They're now looking at the collaborative business process. That's that work that goes on inside of organizations on a daily basis. How can you simplify? How can you take the friction how those users work on a daily basis? Think about scenarios where I want to work and provide different tools to my organization. Maybe I'm in sales and I'm going to use Salesforce, for example. Maybe one of my colleagues is in marketing and they're going to use Office 365. Maybe somebody else is in another legal, for example, and they're going to use a legal application. Fundamentally, in today's legacy world, as each of those users touch that content as part of that process, we are duplicating that content into multiple different silos, into multiple different applications, and maybe stored on-premise or maybe stored in the cloud. With a platform like Box, as an example, through open APIs, you can actually allow that single content layer and allow all of those applications, whether they're enterprise-built applications or bespoke applications that you want to create, leveraging those open APIs, so you're protecting that single source of the truth. So users can work wherever they want to work inside whatever application, but fundamentally through a security policy, being able to access that single source of the truth as well. And once we were able to then reinvent and simplify some of those business processes, then you can move into this intelligent enterprise. And that's really leveraging things like machine learning and AI technologies to actually take out some of the more repetitive tasks and manual tasks outside your organization and start to create some of those digital experiences that allow your customers or your employees to do self-service or automatically push the right content or the right data feeds directly to those users. So digital transformation has never been more urgent. Based around the challenges I mentioned up front, we're seeing the onslaught of customers demanding more. Our competition is much more nimble. They're rapidly changing, so organizations need to keep up pace. And so if I was to leave today, and I'd love to have some conversations both at the Okta stand and at the Box stand around What does simplicity look for your organization? How do we take some of that complexity out of your organization through some of these work processes? Some things to think about is how do you accelerate some of those processes? What are the key workflows, work styles that happens inside your organization that adds friction to how your users work on a daily basis? Is there an opportunity to simplify that as you're on this digital transformation journey? How do you improve productivity? How do you make sure that your end users get the right tools and work in the environments where they want to work in order to get their work done, but still adhere to the right security and compliance and access the right data at the right time? How do you mitigate that risk, but also provide ease of access? And it's a very thin line to walk. How do you make sure that the user is comfortable in the environments that they want to work, but how do you not add additional risk and expose your organization to security risk through regulation and data privacy as well? And so how do you actually bridge that gap? And lastly, if you adhere to some of these, can you actually drive your organizations to innovate better, to drive new awareness across your organization? So they're just some of the things that we think about, that we engage with our customers. When we do this journey, we do these value studies with our customers. When we get in and start working with customers and understand their day-to-day journeys of how their organizations work, we'd love the opportunity to have a conversation to see whether there are friction inside your organizations, whether we can take some of the complexity outside of your daily tasks for your end users and add some more simplistic but powerful tools to enable that across your organization. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't talk too fast there towards the end. But if there's any questions, or you can chat to us at the respective stands. Thank you.